Sunday, 12th of December 2021. This evening's show, we discuss another lacklustre display from the man in Tangerine as we succumb to a relegated team of old crocs and kids at Pride Park. I'm John Aspinall, and this is the Seasiders podcast, match reaction show, Derby County 1, Blackpool 0.
It's already changed the world. A small town from the north of England with a great tradition.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Seasiders podcast match reaction show. Good evening, Andy. Evening, Leanne. Evening, Mark. Evening, Andy again. Evening, Steve. Evening, Let's Walk and Talk. Welcome to everyone on the podcast. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming on the stream. And as you can all see, for those that are watching, we are now implementing the new virtual background facility that StreamYard has rolled out. It's a bit flashy, a bit ravey, but it's getting there. I'm in front of the old South Stand and Mitch, I've just seen yours.
He's in and out there.
Yeah. The godlike characteristics of Sir Gary Medine.
I'm like Gary Medine's spirit leaving his body somehow, aren't I? Which is kind of strange experience. Again, words I didn't expect to say.
Spectral it is.
Spectral side. The Spectral Siders podcast.
I might turn it off. I'm going to have a fit if I keep looking at this. It's turning my eyes in.
Steve Guest says, brilliant blog yesterday, Mitch. Spot on. Very sweary, wasn't it? But understandable given the fare that was served up at Pride Park.
Yes. I think when we lose, I just about every fourth word's a swear word. So there we go.
Yes, Alex, we do need to buy some green screens, I think. Patreon.com/Seasiderspod if anyone wants to sign up and pay for these. I'll get them for the boys. Tim, Derby didn't happen for me. Obviously, the coach was fully booked. And
there's a bit of a pattern here, though, isn't there, now developing? You're meant to be doing something and then don't turn up. And
hang on a minute. No. It's not turning up.
It's been kicked off.
I've been kicked off and not been able to go to the last two games. But once again, I think my booting from the Polton bus coach was a blessing in disguise.
Certainly was. Anyway, before we get to that, I mean, we're used to competing with songs of praise, but you've got to compete with this idiot tonight, if you can see him. Sorry, I can't get out. There you go. So I'm sure our audience levels will be at an all-time low because everybody will be tuning in to get the quiz results from last year.
Look at the state of that knobhead, not you, Tim.
Does he want to know why Jordan Gabriel didn't play as well? Is that why he's gone on television?
I think that's why it's called this news conference, to actually talk about the game. I think he's equally as bemused as we are.
So yeah, everybody in the comments, just do leave us what Boris is telling us if it's going to be any news, and we'll react to that. Welcome, Joe. Thanks for coming on. A very spooky like appearance, Joe. You like from Tim's old Fright Night set, if you remember
that. God. So yes, score a goal or don't score a goal at home. Work from home if you can. Try and find the back of the net, or don't try and find the back of the net. Wibble, wobble. Yeah, that's basically it.
You must press in the higher line, but don't forget to press. Anybody else?
You sounded like you were starting the Anfield rap then. You've got to hold and move. No, not Anfield rap, World in Motion.
Yeah, well, I think both are going to be equally depressing, the podcast and the announcement from our scuffy twat of a leader. But,
fuck off.
Yeah, there's less Tories here, so watch this instead.
Yeah, I don't know, Tim. Tim's
Yeah, Tim's the
sure
only
about
one
him
that's in
yet.
the grey area. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm no Boris fan, let's put it that way.
Well,
You only have to look at my AVFTT post to see on that next line down, the one off the main football thing, to see that I'm not exactly a greatest fan.
So there's going to be a slightly different flavour to the reaction show this evening, because we've all agreed that we don't want to regurgitate that turgid display that we've just seen. So we're briefly going to go over it, and then we're going to go to the kind of the main section of the show, which is where's it going wrong and how can we fix this? And we've got some listeners.
I can sum up the
comments to
first
go-
half very quickly. Nothing happened. That's that. Next.
Well, the main talking point, Joe, was the look of bemusement on all our phones when this popped up onto our screens. And this is the match day 11, which was Maxwell, Sterling, Ekpiteta, Husband, James, Wintle, Connolly, Dale, Carey, Anderson, and Lavery on the bench. Grimshaw, Gabriel, Keogh, Dougal, Hamilton, Bowler, and Jerry Yates. Mitch, let's come to you first. I know you were almost holding your head in your hands then when I showed that on the screen. So, Penny, for your thoughts when you saw that.
Well, I don't want to start with a monologue, but I've had a very, very long week. And in about the last 9 days, the only form of leisure I've really had, my work's gone mental. The only form of leisure I really had was that hurricane and a 3-0 defeat with Luton. So that hadn't really improved my mood. And kind of I'd got through everything on Friday night, and I was really, really looking forward to this game. So I had an early night because I was absolutely knackered. And I drove down. And I put the pod on the way down because we're still quite busy on Friday. I had a chance to listen to the pod, and put the pod on the way down. And by the time I got to the outskirts of Derby, I was really optimistic because, you know, Connor and Joe, you were on, weren't you, and Sean had really talked up our chances. And the Derby fan who'd been on had really said, oh, you know, we're not up to that much. We're quite slow. If you've got a pacey team, bit of skill, get at us. And I was absolutely buzzing. And then I saw this, and I just saw number 2, Callum Connolly, in the centre of midfield, and I thought, oh Jesus, you know what is going on? And I looked at it and just thought, I was just baffled by it. I didn't get it because from everything I could see, and not that I know a huge amount about Derby, but everything I'd read, everything I could see, this was a team that we should be getting at, not a team that we should be trying to nullify in midfield by picking a central defender in midfield. So yeah, but as Joe will testify, I then tried to talk myself into the idea that the front four were going to rotate. It was going to be like one of those washing lines that spins around in the wind. They were going to be that rotating and that skillful, and we were going to blow them away anyway. And actually, it was a touch of genius from Critchley by having that pivot, which would free up the rest. But you
love an analogy, you, Mitch, don't you?
I do, yeah.
And ironically, I used to have one of those quite recently, and I threw it away because it was extremely annoying.
You could have got it down to Squires Gate and get it going to show them what that front four could do instead of just standing in their own positions.
It looked annoying, and it looked annoying on the grass, and it wasn't great. It functionally wasn't brilliant because you had to turn it and. Anyway,
yeah,
Tim...
instead of being that, it ended up being like a fucking shopping trolley from Tesco with one of the dodgy wheels.
Tim, obviously, so you were one of the privileged few who made their way onto the Polton bus, who weren't ceremoniously kicked off, unlike others.
You have to book earlier, John. It's easily. Don't leave it to the last minute.
But I'm glad that happened now. It saved me 25 quid, and it saved me a lot of heartache on the way home and watching that game. Your thoughts and the general consensus on the bus when that was announced.
Well, I was actually in Burton. I think I was still in Burton when to be fair, I was probably back on the bus, but I was proverbially at least choking on my Bailey's cream stout that I'd just finished in one of those rather splendid hostelries that you get in Burton.
That's a very you drink, Tim. That
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like dark ale, but I've got to say it was very, very good. One of the other coach party recommended. So we had all these little sampling drinks.
Wasn't Nick, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was a guy called John. I don't know his surname.
Good name.
But it was very good. It was right opposite the Course Factory in the name escapes me again now. In Burton, but great proper traditional pub. So we'd gone there and we've got all our little taster drinks, and then jumped back on the coach. And then I was quite optimistic as Mitch has already articulated. I think you look at that team sheet and my heart just sank. I thought, oh my God, what are we doing? Because for me, that was 4 players. You listen, I don't profess to know any better than Critch does, but for me, that's 4 players down on our best starting 11, and it almost reminded me a little bit. Maybe not quite as dramatic as when Holloway played that team against Villa when they were there for the taking, and for everything we'd heard on the Friday night pod it was there for the taking, and then he does that, and I'm thinking, why? You look at the bench, and there's even if you taking like the goalkeeping equation out of it, there is 3, arguably 4 players on that bench who should have started, and I think it was just a massively missed opportunity. So very disappointed.
Joe, anything to add to what you've just heard there regarding the matchday 11?
Yeah, well, it's funny because me and Matt were talking in person, and we were both very equally befuddled and confused over the defence. Mainly was our main concern. We couldn't understand how he was persisting with Husband at centre-back after the performance against Luton. We couldn't understand if Keogh's fit enough to be on the bench, why isn't he starting? And as Tim rightly says, the Connolly at central midfield along with Wintle. Dougal isn't injured, is he?
No, he's on the bench.
Maybe he was just on the lash after the Ashes. I don't know. But, bizarre. Very bizarre team selection. But, again, I said it as a joke on the preview one. When we picked our 11, 5 of them probably won't start, and that was the case.
So, gents, as you've rocked up to the stadium, Tim, come to you first. Was there a general malaise amongst the fan base in the light of the team selection?
Do you know it's an interesting thing you say, but I've definitely noticed a drop off in positivity amongst the fans who are attending the games, to a lesser degree at Birmingham, and I think we saw a little bit of it at home. On again, you lose 3-0, you sort of comes to the territory, and the weather was awful, wasn't it? But there was definitely a more subdued atmosphere. Now, whether it was down to the team selected or not, but I think there was a level of befuddlement, to use Joe's adjective, and I think I don't think we were the only ones. We're not being clever after the event. Everybody was, what the hell, before the game. So, I think there was most certainly a little bit of amusement amongst those there as to why certain players weren't playing. And going back to one of the comments in the thread, Gabriel must be thinking, what the hell have I done wrong? Because he's come out of a great performance against QPR and don't think he's played since, has he? And you think, well, even if you're going to alternate, 1 in 4 doesn't quite compute to me. So, I was very, very disappointed. And I think that was a view that was shared by a lot of people who were there on Saturday.
So, Mitch, you obviously weren't happy again. So what was your mindset going into the game as the game kicked off? Were you confident at all?
Well, yeah, I mean, I look at the team and I don't want to be proved right. I didn't like the team, but I don't want to be proved right. And you always go into a game with optimism, and I I had a vague idea that they were weakened, and Callum Connolly might turn into a master stroke, and he might dance around 3 players and pop it in the top corner. That's how it doesn't matter who's playing. In the first 5 minutes of game, I always think it might all come good. I think just going back on Gabriel, I think his last game was actually West Brom, because I think that was the first game I missed with COVID, and my mate actually went. He took his little lad for the first time, and my mate was texting me, and he was actually asking me, I like sort of saying things like, "Oh, I like the number 10," and things like that. And I texted him at the end. I said, "Who was your little lad's favourite player?" And he said, "Oh, we both liked the number 4. We thought he was really good." And I texted him back, "Oh, well, we all like the number 4, and he is really good." And then we've never seen him since, And if somebody who's never seen a game and a 7-year-old kid are going to pick him out as their their favourite new player, I don't know. I don't really know what Critch isn't seeing in him that we all are. But yeah, look, I still think, I've sat there so many times and gone, "Oh, fucking hell, what are you doing, Critch? What have you picked?" And then he's proved me wrong. So I just hope that this was another one of those occasions that I was wrong. And like I say, I tried to talk Joe into the idea that he was actually a genius masterstroke because of the washing line, forward line, and it palpably wasn't.
Tim, over to you then. Mitch did mention in his blog that Critchley now seems to be reverting back to type, and then we have all mentioned this before, setting up to kind of counter what's in front of us rather than taking our game to them. Do you think that was the case on Saturday? Because watching it, as from my vantage point, it seemed to be the case. He's just reverting back to this.
I have a bit of a theory on this. I have a bit of a theory, and it may be completely a lot of crap, but when he's picking the team himself and he hasn't got that experienced head sat on his shoulder who's telling him, "No, I'm not stupid, Critch. You need to pick him. You need to pick him." Then I think he goes off on a tangent, and I think we saw that at the beginning of last season, and then we bring Calderwood in, and all of a sudden we seem to stabilise the way a lot of the time we're stabilising the way we're playing, we're stabilising our selections to a degree, and we maybe had that with McCall as well, and all of a sudden McCall's gone, and we seem to have gone back to the bizarre stuff that we saw sometimes last season, and yes, sometimes it does come off, but I think the problem we're going to continue to have in the Championship is that it's a very unforgiving division, and poor selection, particularly when with the best will of the world, we've got a squad that isn't at full Championship level because we've got promoted earlier than we should have done by the club's expectations. So of course their recruitment is going to reflect the fact that they perhaps still thought they would be in League One. Can't afford to be resting players. We can't afford to be making mistakes in relation to team selection, and it comes back to bite you big style when you start messing around with it to the degree that we're doing it. I'm not saying we never rest a player, that you don't ever say, right, well, he's out of form, we're going to drop him and bring somebody else in. But what I'm saying is that we're doing it wholesale. We're not dropping one player. There's 4 players. I know, Liam, that by the way, that there is 5 substitutes. I meant there was 4 of the 5 substitutes that I felt should have been on the pitch. But my point is, even if my assessment's wrong, I don't think there's many people who wouldn't have said that 2 or 3 of those substitutes should have started on the basis of ability, and that's a massive impact on results in the last couple of games for me. I just think that we're just, Connolly's played, if I've got my maths right, 4 out of the last 5 games, and
he's not central midfielder, and every time he plays, and it's not his fault, we are weaker in the centre of the park, which is the most people would say is probably the most important area of the pitch to make sure you've got it right. We've said that areas need strengthening all season as well, haven't we? So
yeah, we've got Stuart who's perpetually out, but that you could say, right, well, maybe Dougal does need to rest after he comes back from Australia, but Wintl's had a break. We've just had the international break at the beginning of November, so they're going to be reasonably refreshed. And yet we keep chopping and changing and resting, and Connolly's done nothing in any of the nothing in any of the games to suggest that he should be starting ahead of the other two. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But and I'm not saying he's always had a bad game. But when you look at whether you think Dougal and Wintle are the best combination we've got, they are the only two proper central midfield players that we've got who can play consistently at this level. And I just think every time we start without one of them, we look weaker.
Yeah, Joe, if you avert your eyes to the screen now, good reasonable comment from Gurney's just come in. The criticism of Critch's selection isn't worth two bob, given that when people were previously questioning selections and we went to win, then he was described as a genius. So a question to you, Joe, is have you still got the receipt for that flag that you've had made?
Listen.
Just want to tell everyone what it says. Tell everyone about your flag who doesn't know.
Oh, it was there. It was there on Saturday in Critchley Trust. And I still do. I still do. Look, it's no secret that the past month has been pretty bad. But the month before that, I think, is the reason people are so down. In October, we had a tremendous month. We won loads of games. We only lost that one game at Nottingham Forest. We're on the cusp of being inside the playoffs and everybody got a bit giddy. I think now that we're having a bad month, I think people need to temper the feeling that's going around at the minute of, oh, garbage, we're rubbish. We're not garbage, we're not rubbish. Just like we're not good enough to get in the playoffs. We're a team that's just come up from the Championship that's on 27 points at the halfway stage of the season. If we win on Saturday, which is a big game now, by the way, we'll be on 30 points exactly halfway through the season. And I think if you offered that to any Blackpool fan before a ball was kicked this season, they'd have taken it.
Yeah, it's a fair point, Joe. Hard to argue with that. So let's move on to the game then. And
do we have to?
Let's just freestyle about the game then. Mitch, let's come to you first. Your general opinions of what went wrong and how we played.
I can't really remember any moment that was excited in the game. No. It just nothing happened. I think there was one moment in the second half when Lavery got through and smashed it into I think the keeper might have gone down at the near post, or he smashed it into the side net.
We had one shot early. That was our only serious attempt. Was it Dale? When he just side-footed it into the keeper's hands when he could have just put his foot through it. It was quite early on.
Yeah, I remember there was something happened at the other end that looked exciting, but yeah.
I remember because it annoyed me. I was just screaming at him just to smash it in, and he did that.
Well, we had the one as well where I can't remember. It was came in from the left-hand side, so I'm assuming it was. Would it probably been Dale? Would it have been? But we had the shot and it curled round and just went wide, but it was good.
I think that was Lavery.
Was it Lavery? Was that? I couldn't really tell who it was from.
That was literally the only decent chance that we had.
Yeah. Was that first half or second half?
Yeah, it was first.
Yeah. Well, we actually did. We had what was a should have been a decent chance second half, and I think it was Jimmy played Lavery in. And he sort of went in the box, and Jerry stepped back, and Husband went on, and the two of them were clear, and Lavery just didn't see him, and I was kind of right in line with it, and it was one of them. You think if he pulls it now, he's not, and he's like that. That was about the only moment I actually got excited in the game. It was just that was my overriding feel, and even when they scored, it was just like, oh. You know, it wasn't one of them games where you're banging on the door and the other team goes and scores and you think, what's that? You know, and you really, it just second half, we played really well for about 40 seconds. And then they just seemed to assert, it wasn't exactly dominance. I mean, they weren't very good, but you could just tell that they were going to do something, and then they did. And there was a complete lack of reaction from us. I noticed in it was about like 90 plus 3 minutes. We suddenly started legging it around like mad as if we were trying to score. But you kind of, we had, what did we have? I mean, we had about 40 minutes with the extra time to get back into that game. But I don't really remember us really putting our foot down and looking like we were, like we can do, charging everything down and really putting pressure on. And like Arthur said, it just felt like nothing really happened.
That was my issue from the game, was the complete lack of urgency. I'll never get a team that give it a go. Do you know what I mean? If you give it a go and you get beat, fair dues, you've just got beat by the better team. I'm not saying that Derby were miles better than us, and I'm not saying that we're miles better than Derby. But the fact is, we'll never know because we didn't have a go. And I know what we're trying to do, the style of football that Critchley's trying to get us to play. But I'm going to come across as such a hypocrite now. It's boring. I'm getting so bored of us. Maxwell passes the ball out to the fullback, to the centre-back, to central midfield, back to the centre-back, back to Maxwell. Get the ball up the fucking field.
Well, Sean and I had a bit of well, not a tete-a-tete because I love Sean deeply, but we had a ideological football debate in the WhatsApp thing, and Sean was going, well, I don't want to watch it being banged up the pitch to Gary Medine.
I do.
Well, I don't particularly want
or Andy Carroll.
Well, whoever, yeah, ideally both of them, with Dave Kitson as a number 10. But I don't particularly. I don't particularly want to see us bang it up the pitch at Gary Medine for the sake of it. But exactly as Joe says, I don't particularly want to see us pass it to the keeper, back to the full back, to the centre back, who'll pass it to the other centre back, he's under a bit of pressure, so he goes back to the keeper. But that's not very exciting football either. And that was my overriding feeling that after that game was I was bored. After about an hour, my lad went, "Dad, this game is really boring. I just feel," and he said, "I feel like going to sleep. It's really boring." And I'd forgotten what it was like when you were a kid at a football match. I don't know if you remember that. You're a kid at a football match and you weren't thinking about what you were going to say and sort of having a few beers or, what you'd say on the pod afterwards or what you'd put on the Twitter or whatever, where it was just you and the football match. And when it was boring, it was really, really boring. And he was so bored. He was bored out of his mind.
Your son's got more patience than me. I was bored after 25 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah.
I was on my phone checking how my FPL team were getting on.
Not like you to be on your phone during a game, Joe. You were.
Well, I know, exactly. Well, that's what you get when you're pissing about with the ball at the back. And to be fair to Sean, I get what he's saying about lumping it forward. I don't want us to do that either. I'm not trying to compare us to Arsenal, but
you have to be pragmatic. Sorry to interrupt, Joe. Just to say this to Sean, it's his ideology is all well and good if you're full of a team of Iniestas, but we're a lower league championship level team, and you have to mix it up. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I watched Arsenal, and they got out of the press. They were over the halfway line and the ball was in the net within 20 seconds. And I was thinking back to yesterday and I'm like, 20 seconds, we'll have probably done about 38 passes between the keeper and the back four in that time. And then Maxwell would probably boot it out for a throw-in. Have a go. Go forward. We don't mind you trying to take players on. And if you get tackled, fair enough. You've tried to take people on. Be brave on the ball. Have a pass. Look up. If you're a winger, especially look up.
It's funny you should say that. Just sorry, Mitch. I'll just say this just very quickly, just before you come on. Quite a funny incident related to what Joe's just happened in my under-9s team. My son, he got the ball off the winger and he drove down the wing. I was on the side. I was going, drive. So he was belting it down the wing, which he never normally does. And there was a player sort of catching him up, and he was in the opposition's half, and all of a ssudden he just booted out of the pit, booted out at the side. I was like, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I was scared. I didn't want to lose the ball." And I was like, "Well, it doesn't matter in that half the field," and that's what we're like. We're just too cautious, aren't we? Mitch, go on. Sorry,
I was literally going to say that. I said it drove me mad against Luton, and it drove me mad here. I get what's being said that we're all laying into Critch because we've lost a few games, and I get that totally. But
I'm not laying into Critch. I'm laying into the players, to be honest. At the end of the day, I think they've got to take part of the responsibility. Critchley can set up and give the instructions all he wants. If the players don't take it upon themselves to carry out them instructions.
The point Joe, is that we
look at this. Sorry to interrupt again, mate. So just basically relate to what Joe's just saying. This is our poll that we ran. Who's at fault for this? Bit of both was the overriding thing, and just 9% said the players. So
but
yeah,
I think
it'd be interesting to come to that in a minute.
I think it is a bit of both, because I think it's a case of the players didn't the players didn't put the shift in they're capable of. I mean, I'm not saying the players are down tools and it was totally pathetic and so on. We lost 1-0 away from home in the Championship. It was, we've not just been beaten 7-1 or something. But I think what it feels like is it feels very similar to early Critch, where the players are getting the ball and they're going, oh, and they're shifting it to somebody else. And there were several times where I was screaming at the wingers, go. We were not running into space. We weren't attacking space. We're getting the ball, space either to run at somebody or run against somebody. And they're taking it a touch and going inside because we can't lose the ball. Above anything, don't lose the ball. And that's fine, but you're just going to pass it round and round and round and round and round. And in that lineup, who are you passing it round and round and round and round and round to? We haven't got a Wes Hoolahan. We haven't got a Charlie Adam. We haven't got the player that you're just trying to get the ball, get him on the ball and he'll do the damage. What is the point of endlessly passing it around? If the wingers are not going to take people on, if the fullbacks are not really going to overlap and bomb on and get the ball in the box, what's the point of the passing? And I think that's my issue slightly is I get what he's trying to do, and it's all very nice, and we're trying to play like a modern football team, and and in all seriousness, no, I don't really think we should throw it all in the bin and just knock it at 2 6'5" beanpoles. That would be stupid. But I don't really see, it's not like Wintle or Connolly, you're going to work it round and, oh, look, Callum Connolly's got it now on the edge of the D. What a threatening character he is. What is the point of it? And who are we trying to release? And the only player that really attacked the space was Lavery. And Carey did a bit, to be fair, but I think it was, I think he was a little bit, he's 19, so or whatever he is, 21, 3 games. Let's not get on his back. He had a go at attacking the space. Nobody else did. They didn't want the ball. They didn't want the pressure of being the one to make the change. They wanted to give it to somebody else. And that was absolutely early era Critch. That was the problem.
But the other thing I've really noticed over the last probably 3 games, QPR and West Brom, I think we were still doing it. We seem to have forgotten all about the high press and the value that gave to us as a unit, where we were putting pressure on their defence as we're bringing the ball out. We seem to be far more than we were doing, just standing off and letting them play out and letting them dictate what they want to do, rather than we had this. For me, we had this really high tempo game going on, and I think even when the forwards do it, it then transposes itself into the midfield players and into the defenders, and everybody's playing, literally on the toes, and we seem to be playing on our back heels more than our toes for most of yesterday's game and indeed the game before. And so I don't know why we suddenly stopped doing what seemed to be working for us when we played all these teams who were higher in the division than we were.
So that nicely segues on to let's just do the player ratings first, and then we'll go on to where it all went wrong. This should be an interesting player ratings section. All-time lows, I would guess. So let's start off with you, Joe. Chris Maxwell, the goalie. Chizzy and Brett were saying on the comms that he was at fault. Do you agree? And what was your rating? Mute.
Damn it, first time I've done mine in a while. I agree, and I'm going to give him a 5. I'm going to admit I was wrong to ask for him to come straight back in. Grimshaw should start the next game. Plus, he does look like he's still carrying a bit of an injury because towards the end of the game, it looked like we were going to have old Jimmy Husband with the gloves, which probably would have been quite exciting, actually. I wouldn't have minded it the last 7 minutes or so, having James Husband in net.
When was the last time that happened? I remember Gaz Evans went in nets, didn't he?
It might be that, because
before
that it was Mike Conroy. He went in net for a bit. I think it is Gareth Evans against Palace.
Yeah.
And leaves a comment in the comment section, listeners, if you do know.
You don't get it so much anymore now because obviously you got the substitute goalkeeper, but
particularly if they're going to bring into 5, I think if they're going to bring 5 subs in the future, that'll be a relic of the
David Ayres
past.
do it?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, it was away at Tranmere in the League Cup.
Yep.
When, John Aldridge decided to do a running elbow smash into Steve McAlargy.
Stato.
More like Sado, but yeah. So yeah, 5. I was wrong. Grimshaw back, please.
Yep.
I was wrong too.
Yep. Dujon Sterling, Tim.
Yeah, I'm the conspiracy theorist in me thinks that he's got to get a number of games under his belt to stay with us in January, and I wonder whether Critch is playing him because he suddenly realised he's if he's going to play 10 games and he's only played 6, he's got to get some games under his belt, and he's thinking, right, well, I need him for the rest of the season. Because absent that explanation, I do struggle to understand how he starts. The first game he played for us, I thought Gabriel was going to really struggle to get back in the side. But I think what we've seen in all the games since is, and to be fair, our educated audience clearly see what the issue is, and that is that he doesn't get forward nearly as much as Gabriel does. I mean, it's not just a little bit different; it's chalk and cheese. And we're effectively playing, for me, when Sterling plays right back, it's the old 60s and 70s style right back, which, our illustrious Jimmy Armfield put paid to that, didn't he, with being the first sort of wing back, and fullbacks these days have to do more than defend. They have to contribute significantly towards the attacking play, and he's just not doing it enough for me. Now, whether that's on instruction or whether that's out design or the way he plays, I don't know. But we are missing a massive, massive attacking influence. I don't like Gabriel when he plays too far up the pitch because he then gets marked. And what I like is when he comes in to join and is the extra man. And I hope to God he's playing against Peterborough.
I think he will be.
So it's a 5.
Big Marv Mitch, one of the few that may escape the wrath of a low score in this match.
He did okay. I felt he was a little bit shaky actually at times, given that Derby didn't. I don't really think Derby threw that much at us, and I felt the whole defence was a bit shaky, considering they weren't really pressed that high. Derby looked like they won the second ball a lot and then didn't really know what to do with it. It's like they hadn't really practiced attacking, and they sort of get it on the halfway line and then sort of move quite slowly forward, and we'd have time to go and win the ball back. And I thought Marvin did okay, but I don't think he was sort of imperious or Rolls Royce-esque as we sometimes describe him. So I'm going to go for 7 minus or 6 plus. 6 plus.
Jimmy Husband in the centre of defence, Joe.
As Matt's just said, I don't think any of the back four had a particularly great game. I'm going to give him a 6. There was one challenge where I was a bit worried, where I thought, is he the last man there? Is he going to go? But thankfully, we didn't have a usual absolute dickhead of a ref that seems to.
Do you think? Do you know? Also, think when he went to left back, he was even worse.
It was
took
weird,
him the ball away.
At half time, I thought, all right, nice one. Finally, we've sorted it out. Keogh's in the middle. husband's back in his natural position. And yeah, like you say, he got caught out with a lot of stray passes. Man was ghosting past him for fun. It just a bad day at the office. I'm not going to bury the lad too much because he's had more good games than bad. But yesterday was certainly not one of his best. So yeah, 6.
Reece James, Tim. It's a bit of an enigma for me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he came off at half time. I don't quite know what the injury was. I've not seen
He
much of the.
Felt his hamstring apparently.
Right. Okay. So, and to be fair, we were better in that first half than we were in the second. But it was. There was just a lack of positive. You know, he's into that. You know, it's my expression, the general malaise, and there was just that. There was no upbeat from anybody, and and he was as guilty of it as anybody else. And perhaps, obviously we've only got half to judge him on there, but he was no better and no worse than anybody else in that back four. So I'm going to be kind and give him a 6.
Yeah, being very generous there, Tim.
Well, maybe I'm in a happy mood. Maybe.
Ryan Wintle, Mitch.
He was there. 5. I don't think I can't. Really
He was there. I think that kind of sums it up, really.
He was there. He had the number 8 shirt on. He was. He wasn't the worst culprit, but he did nothing of note either. So 5.
Yeah. Callum Connolly, Joe. This should be an interesting one.
Bower. He can go back to Fleetwood for me. He's garbage.
Reminds me of MJ Williams.
Mm.
Who I famously branded.
In his defence, being an advocate for the downtrodden, I would say that listen, he's playing out of position as I mean, Sam says he has played quite a bit of football in midfield in his career, but if he has, he doesn't show it. But I'm going to stick up for him and say he's a defender for us, and he shouldn't be playing where he is. But I think it's a fair score, Joe.
If he's a defender, he should be able to bloody tackle, and he didn't bloody tackle. 4. Let's move on.
I like it, Joe. I like that decisiveness.
Yeah,
I like it. Owen Dale, Tim. I was raging at him for that finish early on. I hate it when a good chance to smash the ball in, or at least make the keeper work, and this powder puff side foot, it really annoyed me.
It's interesting, isn't it, that apparently Blackpool are quoted in the papers today as to coming back to Crewe and asking to reduce the asking price that they've agreed. And I think
don't bother at all. He's shite.
After Reading, we were all thinking we'd got the bargain of the season,
second
weren't
coming.
we? And it's been a downhill trajectory ever since. So
Sean likes him though, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Sean loves him.
To me, he just look at the moment. He looks ineffective, and
lad couldn't beat an egg. He's crap.
I can't be harsher than a 4. He's a young lad and he hasn't played much football, but that's the lowest score I've ever given anybody.
4, Tim, for Owen Dale.
4.
Sonny Carey, Mitch, another one that promised so much on that beautiful night in Reading. It was kind of flat to deceive ever since.
Yeah, but I'm going to be careful with this. I thought Carey at least when I watched Carey a few times, I thought, oh, well, I couldn't do that. When he had a couple of nice cushion passes, he did try and get his head up, and he did try and play it a little bit, and he did run with it a few times, which nobody else wanted to do. So of a very, very, very turgid midfield display, I thought, you've got to give him a little bit of credit for where he's come from. So I'm going to go for 5+ because he tried.
I'm just dipping into the comments about Owen Dale, because a couple of funny ones have come in. Clapstick says reduce it to the cost of the ink used on the deal. And also this one from Steve. Speaking of raging, that short corner in the second half springs to mind.
that
Who
was
remembers that?
Oh, that just summed up our second half.
Can I just go back to Carey for a second? I don't know if anybody else thought this, but it felt like to me like he was playing way further up the pitch than he should have been. Like it felt like at times like he was kind of playing off Lavery's shoulder, and I don't know whether that was his inexperience or whether it was a tactical decision to try and play him up there. But it seemed to kind of defeat the point of having the extra man in midfield because he just didn't get the ball, and whereas at Reading, he was absolutely, he was the sort of pivot around which everything worked. And I don't know what anybody else thought on that.
Yeah. And for me, when he drops into that space and just in front of the two central midfield players, that's where he does his damage. Because I also think what I've noticed when Lavery's come on is he doesn't seem to be getting goal side of the defense in the way that he was able to do pre-injury. And I wasn't sure that I haven't quite convinced myself yet whether that's down to the fact he's still carrying an injury and he's not quite got back to fitness, or whether it's the way that we're playing. And I think it could be either or at the moment. I think the jury's still out for me as to what it is. But I don't think we're playing to Lavery's strengths. I don't think we play to Jerry's strengths when he's on the pitch.
I just ended up feeling as if, like, the way we played Carey yesterday, we might as well have played Yates because he was deep a few times, but he just seemed to be so far advanced. And it's like, well, what's the point? This kid is clearly a midfielder that attacks rather than a striker. So why don't you just play another striker if you're going to have him pushed right up against the actual striker? And I felt like it kind of did him a bit of a disservice to play him like that, unless it was him not really reading that. If it was him just kind of running all over the place trying to get the ball because he is a kid. I don't know, but
he's got talent. He's got potential anyway. So let's not be too harsh on him. Keshi Anderson, who are we on to now? Is it Joe?
Yeah. Again, 6-.
He tried. He tried.
He tried. I mean, nobody had a good game, if I'm being brutally honest. Like you say, I think there's one bit of really bad play from him that really annoyed me. It was when Yates was trying to time his run and Anderson gave him the ball far too late. He just didn't look up and saw it late. And I think that basically summed our offensive efforts up in a nutshell, really.
Yeah, but do you not think Yates was offside?
He's miles off there. I agree with Tim.
He was bollocking him, but at the end of the day, he was offside before Keshi even got his balance.
To be fair, he was screaming for the ball ages before that.
Yeah, but Keshi wasn't. Keshi was off balance, and as soon as he got balanced, he played it first time. But he was already off. He was off.
I think Jerry was trying to use that to kind of deflect the blame from the fact that he was so far offside and he's timed his run terribly. And he's trying to kind of switch the blame over to Keshi there. So, yeah. I think,
we're getting called out by Leanne in the comments, by the way, where she's raging.
You're being too polite.
We're being too polite, apparently.
How is 6 possible for any
players? Keeping it real, Leanne. We're not, we're trying not to but overreact. We try not to overpraise. We try not to overly criticise because...
I mean, to be fair, if I was doing the Dale rating, I literally would have given him 0.
Well, you were doing that to me, weren't you?
Yeah.
But I think
500 grand for him. Jesus.
Well, I don't think we're paying 500 grand somehow. I think
we'll pay 50
Simon might be keeping his checkbook in the pocket at that rate.
Piss off.
Finally, Shay Lavery, Tim.
Yeah, is he the best of a bad bunch? I don't know. I've been a bit underwhelmed with him since he's come back from injury. But as I've said, I get the impression it's partially the way that we're playing, which doesn't play to his strengths. I think if we play that high press and he's at it and Yates is at it and Keshi, then I think it's a different proposition. But he doesn't see. He seems to have lost that angry angry player. You know, when he was snapping at everybody's heels and wanting to kick off with everybody in the game, which I loved. I love the passion, and I want to see him just perhaps put a little bit more of that back into his game if he can. I don't know. Am I being too harsh with a 5? 5+. Because I think he can do so much better.
Ian's just said, hi John, everyone watching. I'm a Darlington fan. We were made bankrupt in 2011, reformed in 2012, demoted 4 years. We're currently a fan-owned National League club. We have 3 promotions today. Well done, Ian. Just asking me to put that out there. Puts our problems into perspective, doesn't it? We're moaning about a championship.
Every time you go up to the northeast and you drive past that stadium.
George Reynolds Arena, was it called? Did he name it after himself?
They just destroyed them. And Darlington, of course, is my favourite ever away game apart from Forest. 1985, where we won 4-0. I don't know whether he looks like he might be a bit too young, Ian, to remember that. But 1985, and virtually secured our first promotion since 1970. So I was there, and I think there's a lot of Blackpool fans who have a soft spot for Darlington just because we were able to go there and win the game, and stayed behind and wouldn't leave, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's a very famous way day. That unfortunately I wasn't there for some reason, probably a bit too young. So there you go, Ian. Oh, he's 47. So yeah,
he still might be a bit young to remember it though, because it's. How old was I? I was 18, so he might be. He might have been there 10-ish, 11.
Okay, moving on. Manager rating. This should be interesting. Let's start with you, Mitch.
I thought he got it very wrong. And after the Birmingham game, I hadn't gone to Birmingham, so maybe I was being. It's sometimes easier when you're watching on the telly in your house to be gentle. But I kind of tried to unpick the selection on the pod and kind of said, well, I think he's put Connolly in there for a bit of height, and he's done this and he's done that. And it didn't work. It palpably didn't work. Now, I think Critch is entitled to make mistakes. I think he's entitled to make mistakes because he's earned the right to make mistakes. But I don't think he's entitled to make the same mistake repeatedly. And I think that's what annoyed me. So I am struggling to think of anything in particular that he did, that you go, oh, well, that was a good decision by Critchley. I mean, we didn't get better with substitutes. So I'm going to give him a 1 because he had a very neat side parting. And compared to Wayne Rooney, had better trainers. So he gets a 1 for that.
And better hair, although, Joe, it's not saying much, is it?
His own hair.
It doesn't take much to beat a shredded wheat balanced on the top of someone's head, does it?
Oh, dear.
Joe, your thoughts on Mr. Critchley?
Pretty much everything Matt said, but I'm going to be slightly kinder and say 3+.
Tim?
Yeah, actually, when I did sort of follow your duel with Sean this morning on the WhatsApp group, and that comment that you made about not repeating mistakes was probably the one comment that resonated with me the most. Where, because I think he has a little bit of form for this, doesn't he? Where when we saw that at the beginning of last season, where the repeated playing of Nottingham. And the poor back line and picking wrong players in midfield and
the 4-3-3. Do you not remember the 4-3-3 that you would not deviate from?
It does get a bit stubborn with it. And
do you think? Sorry to interrupt him. Do you think that 4-2-3-1 is the new 4-3-3? As in, it's a good formation, but only if the players know how to play in it.
Yeah, I think we need to get back to 4-4-2. I think is what we need at the moment.
In January, we need to get Benson and Edges in.
Yeah. And Andy Carroll. Shame
He's
because
gone,
he went to
John.
Swansea.
He's
I
gone.
was gutted when I saw him lining up for Reading. Gutted.
But in all honesty, I just think and it goes back to the comment I made earlier, where I think he needs somebody Like, that somebody sat on his shoulder saying, no, think again. And I think he had that with Calderwood. I don't think Mike Garrity does that. I don't think that's his role.
Kind of a yes. It's either Bradley Walsh on Mike Bassett.
It could be.
Complete yes man, isn't he? Yes, boss. Oh yeah, great idea, boss. Great idea.
And
yes,
in fact, Phil Neal used to be like that, didn't he? With Graham Taylor, I seem to remember rightly, he was, wasn't he? And I'm sure he was based on Phil Neal. And but yeah, and I think he had it to a certain degree with Stuart McCall. And I think the sooner we get that person back, I've heard a rumor that Tomo might be on his way back, and that's come from one of our knobber sources. You can probably guess who that knobber source is, and he reckons he's out of favour at Preston, and therefore he may be on his way back to us. Whether that's somebody who has the managerial experience that I think Critchley probably needs, I don't know whether that quite works for me in relation to that particular point. I think he looks at Calderwood, who's been there and done it, and I think he looks at McCall, who's been there and done it, and he probably, listen, it's pure guesswork this, but I think he probably listens to them more than he does somebody who hasn't managed at a reasonable level and hasn't played or played at a very reasonable level.
I don't know if it's just about what Critch does. I also wonder if it is, because between him, Garrity and Critchley have got 1 game's worth of professional football experience. I looked up Mike Garrity the other day, and he played for Vauxhall briefly in about, 1996 or something. And Critch, of course, played 1 game for Crewe. And I wonder how much that assistant, because both Calderwood and McCall were not only managers, but had massive playing careers, distinguished playing careers at sort of played all through the divisions as well, both of them. And I wonder how much of them is about reading the players to Critch, about kind of saying, look, yeah, I know on paper that's the right thing to do, but look, if you do this, it's going to go down like that in the dressing room. Or perhaps I can also imagine Critch being that guy who's kind of does a 15-minute team talk and then goes, right, lads, and then walks out, and the players are a bit like, what's he just said? And the assistant manager maybe just puts it into footballer speak, going, he wants to do that, and they go, all right, yeah. And it's not that the assistant manager is doing the job for him. It's that communication between somebody who hasn't played the game, or 2 people who haven't played the game. They've been involved in the game, they've been on the sidelines, they're immersed in the game, but they've not been footballers. And you look at any manager of that ilk, Wenger, Mourinho, whoever, they always have some ugly bloke with them who has got 700 appearances behind them to sort of be that bridge between them and the players, whether it's for credibility or whether it is actually for that. I mean, I worked out Critch's record without an assistant manager, and we were averaging half a point a game without an assistant manager, which is, it's 14 games. We've got 7 points from those 14 games, I think, something like that. Anyway, it's about half a point, but it's pretty scary, yeah. And I don't think he needs somebody to do the job for him. I think he just needs somebody to, like Tim says, to maybe calm his worst excesses or his most wild planning. But I think maybe just to communicate and smooth the communication from the players to him and from him to the players. And I think then that's fine.
I think one of the main reasons has been pointed out by Phil Hornby in the comments. It's all gone wrong since Coach Critchley left Twitter. Strange coincidence, Joe. Or not?
Oh, no, basically. What I think it is, and I said this on the WhatsApp group, it's Blackpool Football Club. We are the tortoise of the EFL. When it comes to the winter months, we go into hibernation.
We always
we get in our nice, comfy little cardboard box with the straw. We go to sleep, and we wake up round about the middle of February and start again. And I think that's what it is. We just seem to be one of these clubs that does sweet FA during winter. Don't know what it is. It's just always remember us always having a really bad November, December, January type time.
Anyway, I'm going for the record, I think, between being asked the question and actually delivering the answer as to what my score was for the manager.
Oh yeah, I forgot we were doing that.
So I'm going to join Joe. I think I'm going to be a little bit kinder than Mitch and give him a 3, but that's not a good score.
No.
Now look at your screens for a laugh.
That Derby lad who came on in that terrible pitch invasion, he gets it.
Yeah.
He showed more enthusiasm than most of our front line, to be fair.
Right. So just before we go, I did go out to Twitter. Where's it all gone wrong? I've asked the fan base. And these are a few of the comments that have come back. Tangerine Chris said, so I'll read it out. So, feel free to come in at the end, anybody. We look good against good teams, but when you can have a plan and set up to stop them playing. But those teams who think they will just beat us anyway, just don't adapt. So don't adapt to it. Against the lesser teams, they will have a plan to stop us, and we don't adapt to that plan. And plan B is becoming predictable. Plan A is not being that successful either at the moment, is it?
No, not really.
Well, in that case, just imagine that you're playing Fulham every week. Job done.
I mean, that's the remarkable thing, isn't it? You know, when we played West Brom, QPR, Fulham, Bournemouth, we've looked very, very good. You know, even if we haven't got the result, we've looked fantastic. And then we seem to just lose the plot when we come against teams. So what's the expression? So-called lesser teams who you actually expect that you might get a result against, and they're the ones that we struggle with.
Ryan said new contract curse players in form being dropped. Gabriel and Grimshaw, or stubbornness to select players who aren't good enough. Sterling, Dale Connolly, lack of championship quality in the team. 4-2-3-1, and a negative setup. I think he summed it up pretty well there, hasn't he?
Ryan? Very good.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I think it's basically what we've spent an hour articulating something that Ryan managed to get into about 30 words.
Yeah, fair play. Absolutely made us all completely unnecessary and redundant. Well,
there is an app out there called Blinkist. You may have heard of this, Tim. What it does, it boils down all the key points out of non-fiction books into about 5 minutes. You can have like 2 hours of preamble in a book and all this information. It nails all the key points and just gives it you in 5 minutes. And I think that is the Blinkist there of this podcast episode.
Superb, that Ryan. Yeah. Great post.
Jimmy
Tweet
Lee.
Even.
Jimmy Lee, it's our first season in a high division. If we win next week, we're 11 points clear of relegation. Nothing is going wrong.
To a degree, he's right, though, isn't he?
Well, it's what you said before, wasn't it? If we beat Peterborough, we've got 30 points.
Yeah. I mean, to a degree, he's right. But at the same time, not winning in 7 and not scoring. They're not scoring in 3 games. I find a lot more concerning than they're not winning in 7. Because we all knew that when we came up to the Championship, there was going to be periods like this where we were going to have tough runs, not win games for a while. It's the lack of goals.
It's 2 goals. It's 2 goals in 7, Joe. It's not just the last 3. It's 2 goals in 7 games.
And it's the lack of urgency as well. It's like, come on, just have an effing go.
Is that right? 2 in 7. That's shocking.
If you looked at it yesterday, we were shy, and you could argue that, well, you know, you put those performances every season. You win the league, and you'll have at least one shocker in that year where everyone goes home going, "Oh, it's all a disaster." But what there wasn't any sort of acknowledgement that it wasn't working. There was nobody really, you know, screaming at each other. There was nobody grabbing players grabbing each other by the scruff, by the collar and shit. The only player I saw really having a go was Husband, who, to be fair, didn't have a great game, but at one point he absolutely rollicked the players in front of him. He'd put it into touch, and then sort of everybody just shrugged, and he was like, well, where am I supposed to put it? You know, it was almost like he was going, I'm Jimmy Husband. I'm not going to curl it round 3 players to that run you've just made there. People have to move. And he was screaming at them, and it didn't really make any difference. And I think on the one hand, I kind of agree, like, we're sort of at worst where we thought we would be, and probably at best ahead of where we thought we would be. But it's the manner of it in the last couple of games that is concerning, because it just looks so tepid, and it looks like there's no leadership on the pitch again, which again goes back to how we felt maybe 15 months ago when we looked at the team and went, there's not enough leadership in this team. You take out Dougal, you take out Gabriel, you take out a few players, and it's just, there's nobody setting the tempo, there's nobody demanding, there's nobody like driving and pushing, and it suddenly looks quite characterless again, which is weird, because 4 weeks ago we were singing the praises of the character and the spirit absolutely to the roof, and it's how that's gone. I would rather have gone to Derby yesterday and lost 3-0, but the players kind of, be, I'd rather it had been more of a disaster and it had come from stupid individual mistakes and people and it was just, yeah. And Luton was a bit as well.
To be
we
fair,
all went, it's the weather.
I think you described Luton as how you wanted Derby to be. I thought first half we weren't that bad against Luton.
Yeah, but we weren't that bad, but at the same time, we weren't that high-pressing machine that we have been. And when we went behind, we just kind of went behind and went, we've gone behind.
Rolled over and died.
Yeah, and we also went, well, the weather was really bad. It was really cold, and there were mitigating factors. Birmingham was a bit certainly second half. I argued that we played quite well first off at Birmingham. Birmingham was the last time we played with character was West Brom, which is
definitely.
4 or 5 games ago. And we played with real character that day, and we haven't really shown that character since. And I think that's what concerns me is that. I don't care that we haven't got that good players. I don't really care how good the players are. I pay me 20. Well, I bought a season ticket. I don't pay me 20 quid now. But we pay our 20 quid, and we want to see them try, and that's what worries me. That's what will keep us up is spirit. Because we don't have a Wes Hoolahan, we don't have a Charlie Adam, we don't have the players we've had, and let alone the kind of players that half the rest of the league have got, 3/4 of the rest of the league have got. We haven't got them, so we need to have spirit, and we haven't got it.
And it's transmitting into the fan base as well, as we spoke about earlier on. It was you used the word tepid, and I think that it could equally be levelled at the fans yesterday. I thought a couple of times. We tried to get a little bit of something going, and just people around us just didn't seem interested. And that was, to be honest, I don't know whether you, I'll mention it because I think it's worthy of mention. I thought the Derby fans to the left of us were absolutely superb all game. And listen, there's a team who know they're going down, and they've set themselves out. They've set the stall out that we're going to create an atmosphere and try and make sure that helps attract a new owner that's going to be willing to write a check for 50 million quid just to take over what's going to be a League One team. And but every credit to them, I thought they were superb. And we for the first time away this season, I felt like we didn't do our part either. But I think that's a reflection of what's going on the pitch. I think we feed off that. It's a yin and yang thing, isn't it, between the fans and the players? And if the players aren't putting the shift in, then the fans start to think, well, they get bored, and and it was incredibly boring yesterday. I mean, that's the worst game I've been to watch probably since the boycott.
Oh God, so glad.
And that's how bad it was to watch. It was just boring, and it was just nothing.
Right, let's move on to these comments. We've got quite a few. This is a good one from Andy. Andy's our HGV driver. Welcome, Andy. Wherever you're driving and listening to this. At the moment, I think Chris is picking a side like I do when I'm on a losing streak on Football Manager, trying different teams and formations every game, hoping that something works. And he also says this is really worrying run, and I can't see where a win is on the horizon. But I think we've all been there on Football Manager. But
to be fair, Andy, Critch said that almost, didn't he, in his post-match talk, that he was just trying something different to try and get a different result, but it isn't working. I don't know whether it worked for Andy on Football Manager, but it most certainly doesn't work in the Championship.
It never used to work, Tim. Never used to work. George Glass, Critch can't keep making 3 to 4 changes to the team each week because no one can get consistent form. That's a great point, George. And no coherent tactics. Great chances is present either way. Very worrying, but I have faith will adjust and improve.
That's an interesting point because I think while I hate having the constant switching of personnel week in, week out, I can completely understand it and respect it when you've got the Tuesday, 3 games in a week. I understand keeping the team fresh. For the past few weeks, it's been Saturday. There's been no real excuse to look and to look to change things up. I don't understand why there's not been more of a settled team with us having a run of Saturday games.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. Shall I scroll it? Who's coming?
Come
This'll
on,
be
bring it
great.
on.
Who's coming?
This will be really positive. I can't wait for this.
For the benefit of the audio pod. He's back. It's Phil. And it says, bing. Manager. Fucking clueless. Who'd
have guessed that?
have thought that?
It's a very well thought and deep analysis of the scenario.
Phil was stuck with him.
Yeah. We literally are. He's just signed a new 4.5-year deal.
Yeah. Darren Humphries about how about like in any sport, confidence is huge. We are unbeaten against the current top 4. That's Blackpool tend to do. We struggle when expected to win. Damien Coughlin seems like all has gone pear-shaped. Since Poole lost their assistant coach to Sheffield United, it's a lack of goals through that concerns me most. I think we've said that already, haven't we?
Yeah, totally agree with him.
Leanne, you've had your say. You've been arguing enough. John T. Couldn't have said it, no, I better not. Players being dropped when they've done nothing wrong, Grimshaw and Gabriel. Too many changes every week. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I get the whole tactics thing. But sometimes it doesn't need to be changed. No creative midfield, a few players not up to it. Championship standard. I think that echoes everything we've just said, isn't it?
Pretty fair.
I think it's that thing about you get dropped, but you've not done anything wrong, and then it's also tied into the idea of confidence because then you don't know what you have to do to keep the shirt. You know, if Gabriel doesn't deserve to wear that shirt, and to be fair, Grimshaw as well. I can understand the Grimshaw one more, but the Gabriel one, he must be thinking, well, what have I done wrong? And the manager, so you've not done anything wrong. It's a bit like when you get dumped when you're like 15, and they say, oh, it's not you, it's me. And you're like, well, what? You know, that's what it's like, and it hurts. When you know it hurts, and I'm sure it hurts players as well getting dropped. No matter how much Critch says it's all part of a masterclass, you know, because they want to play, and that's tied into confidence and. Yeah.
Never happened to me, that Mitch. Jonty says, could have said it better. Too much tweaking of a team when not needed. Pick the best players, including Gabriel, Dougal, and two up top, simple. Andy, you've had your say, so let's move on. Joe Ibbotson, he's getting the team wrong. That's definite. But players have also lost confidence. This has been coming though with our lack of goals. He needs to stop trying to be clever and just play the best team. Dougal and Gabriel are must. We've echoed that, haven't we, this evening?
Yep.
Lee Mack. Oh, let's get Bison's off. We're looking forward to that one. Lee Mack, Conley, not good enough. League One at best. Leggy League One donkey.
Correct.
Let me guess. Bison's has got a really optimistic take.
Go on, Mitch. I'll let you read it.
Bison says, lacking in experience, and it's beginning to show he needs an experienced number 2, ASAP. First game since Critch took over, the players have down tools. They knew the team was wrong from the off. Worrying now. Must-win game next week, which we would all agree with, but Bison says it's worrying every week, and in every next game is a must-win game. I do agree with him there. I do. I'm jesting.
How I get that we're playing a team near the bottom in Peterborough. you'd see it as a winnable game at home. I'm sorry, you can't have a must-win game with 24 games remaining in the season.
It's not a 6-pointer, is it?
No, it's a 6-pointer, but it's not a must-win
No, I
game.
said it's not a 6-pointer, Joe. I said it's not a 6-pointer.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. Do you know what I mean? I get the importance of the game and for confidence and morale, and if we lose to a team that's languishing at the bottom, people will start getting a bit twitchy, but to say it's a must-win game is ridiculous.
I think it does feel. I think it's one of those phrases that people use, isn't it? Because it's kind of like a talk sport phrase almost. But I think it does feel like we need to see, in terms of the relationship between the players and the fans, and getting that vibe back. We need to see a reaction. Regardless of the result, we need to see something to get behind, because it has been a little while. Mind you, I'm saying that I sound like some spoilt brat, because actually the West Brom game was a fantastic spectacle. So maybe I'm just being a spoilt brat.
We've only scored
I think we all are.
We've only scored 7 goals. No, we've only scored 7 goals at home.
Yeah,
right.
It's not good enough. We need to be scoring more goals. People need to be some form of, I don't know, we need a lift from somewhere, and we do need a spark, and we need something to happen. It's not a must-win game, but we need to start seeing goals going in, because that's what we're there to see at the end of the day. Niall O'Reilly, really hard to criticise when he was doing the same thing, changing style every week, and then he gets promoted, keep the faith.
As Joe says, though, that was Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. Games cancelled with COVID, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. That was out of necessity. He was swapping and changing because of the circumstances, and we had a horrendous injury crisis last year. I mean, we've not been lucky this year with injuries in some ways. I think Kevin Stewart's been missed more than we let on, but he had to do that last year, or the squad would have fallen over with the intensity of games. And we had the most intensity as well of anybody, and he did it very well. But does he need to do it now? I think that's the comeback.
I think also in League One, it's more forgiving, isn't it? So if you are playing Kai or whoever.
Oh no! Don't go there, Tim. Don't go there.
If you're carrying a player, then or two, then you get away with it. But
lack of goals, did we let go?
I threw that one in for jest purposes. But the point is, in the Championship, it's very unforgiving, as we said earlier on, and you rest 2 of your form players. And I think Leanne sort of picked out 2 who were in form. Then it's going to have repercussions, and we didn't just rest 2; we rested, I think, 4, and we can't do it. You just cannot do it at this level.
Just to round this section off, then there's one comment I've missed from Nick Freshney. Right, Nick. Could do with Nick Smith on air really for this one, and it is.
Yeah, the back. Yeah, the back in style.
Nick says halftime bongs again, and pre-match bongs have re-emerged. We haven't said that phrase for ages, have we?
I think for the next for the Peterborough game at home, instead of Tony Parr going, "Please welcome onto the pitch the Seasiders," it should be, "Please welcome onto the pitch the half-baked tortoises."
The what?
Right.
The half-baked tortoises.
Could run out to the Grateful Dead or something.
Right, gentlemen, on that, I think we'll leave it. We're on an
Can I just say one thing before we go? Right, I know
that
that we've spent the last hour and 20 slagging off the players to high heaven, but to be fair to them, they are decent guys, and I know they've probably got feelings and everything. And I just wanted to mention what they've done for the Armfield Club and the Muckers, that they're having that Christmas lunch for the homeless and the vulnerable in Blackpool. And I believe that the Blackpool squad have donated a load of clothes for the homeless. And as much as we slag them off on here, that does actually show, that the decent people, there's a lot of character in that squad. And, everything said on here, it is pure football and pure emotion. And the guys are humans, and it sounds from what they've done, they're a decent bunch of humans as well.
Even Owen Dale, Athers.
Even Owen Dale. There'd have to be some pretty small people to get his clothes as well, but I digress.
No, well said, Joe. Well said.
Okay, on that note, I think we'll leave it there. So, thanks for joining us, everybody. It's been a really good, fun, cathartic session. I think is a phrase Tim uses quite often in these situations. So please do like and subscribe to the channel if you're watching it on YouTube. Hit the notification bell and all that bollocks. We're coming back with a preview show on Thursday. We're playing Peterborough and then the reaction show after that. So that remains to be said. Is thanks for watching, thanks for downloading, and
up the poo.